Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Uh, Thank you all for the support so far. This is the first solo show. There will be many more to come. I will be doing a solo show once a month, maybe, to kind of give everybody an update of what's going on in my life or what's going on with the blog and podcast, a recap of everything, and just some future projects that I will be working on. Um, but yes, I'm appreciative of the support so far that all my friends and family have given me for this podcast. I hope that it's been bringing some value to y'all's life. It has definitely brought some value to mine. I've been able to speak to some really cool people, learn a lot from them, and just about what's going on in their life. But I did want to take some time to make an episode to talk about some things that I'm going to be pushing for, things that I'm going to be incorporating into the podcast and the blog, and hopefully some things that will give you guys, give the audience a chance to participate on, so that we can make this thing a little bit bigger. We can get more people involved, and we can bring some value to more people's lives. But before I do anything like that, I like to make a very special announcement. The Life on a Mission podcast has its very first ever sponsor, and it is the Crestwood Feed and Seed Depot that is located on 630 or 6315 West Highway 146. It is a feed and seed that helps you out with your gardening, your lawn care, and from time to time they sell fresh produce and farm fresh eggs. Yes, my family is involved in running that store. That is why they've been so generous to give me some support on the podcast. But of course, I go to them for all of my lawn and garden needs. The One of the co-owners of the Feed and Seed Depot, his name is Steve Bowen. He has been in the lawn care business for the last 30 years at least. So if you are looking for not only good quality products, but great customer service and great customer care, Steve Bowen is pretty much a walking almanac as far as what you need to take care of your lawn and garden. Outside of that, they also have farm fresh eggs, which I refuse to have my eggs any other way. They sell them for $5 a dozen, but if you want to sign up via online at maplemorningfarms.com, you can get them for a discounted price, I believe, but don't quote me on that. It just involves you coming directly to the farm to picking them up instead of picking them up at the Crestwood Feed and Seed. But either way, don't quote me on that officially. Either way, they sell them at $5 a dozen, and Walmart sells their eggs at $5 a dozen as well. But the term organic is a little bit watered down nowadays, and of course, not bashing on any corporate America egg distributors in any way, but the only way that I would like to have my eggs is locally grown, and you can trust the Crestwood Feed and Seed to provide that for you. Besides that, if you have any other questions or concerns involving the maintenance of the outdoors of your property, the Crestwood Feed and Seed on Highway 146 is the place to go. Outside of that, everything has been going well. The podcast is booming. I'm getting a lot of good feedback from people that are listening. They enjoy what's going on. But I want to make some announcements on some things to come, and some things that I'm going to be working on. And just as far as projects go, one thing that I want to do that if anyone gets a chance to listen to this anytime soon, and wants to reach out to me via Instagram or Twitter, I am definitely more than willing to hear your feedback on this. But a project that I want to get going is setting up a Patreon account. And I don't know if anybody's heard about this or not, but I'll go ahead and explain what it is. Basically, this company called Patreon is allowing people to set up a donation page as far as anybody who's wanting to receive donations for their work. If you are an aspiring artist or somebody who just does something creative and you want to be able to get a return on that or get some support in that area so you can continue creating good content or making more artistic work for people to enjoy, Patreon allows you to set up a donation page to where any of the audience or anybody that participates in this artist's life can donate anywhere from $1 a month to $100 a month, just depending on how generous people are. I want to set up a Patreon page because not to build up the blog or podcast. I actually don't want any donations whatsoever to be sent to me for that. I want to build up this podcast on my own steam, essentially. But what I want to do and what I want to give the audience a chance to participate in is that we have a lot of people come onto the podcast that are doing things, certain ministries or nonprofit programs, kind of like my friend Andrea Scott at Up Louisville. She created or she started a nonprofit for homeless women and children. And basically, they're up and running, and they've gotten grants from the city of Louisville. But things are going really well for them, of course. But still, anything helps. Any volunteer hours help. Any dollar or penny helps. And what I want to do is I want to set up a Patreon page for my podcast to where if somebody noticed a certain ministry or nonprofit or some sort of project that they admired especially, they would have the option to go to my Patreon page and donate $1 a month or $5 a month to that cause. And then what you would get to see after that is at the end of every month, I would go and distribute a check to those people that have been on my podcast. And, I would tell them, congratulations, my audience and the people that support me have heard your story and have heard your message, and they want to support you too. So here is a check for whatever amount of money to go to your cause, and we all, wish you the best of luck. And that's just something that I feel like would be really nice for the audience to participate in. So far, I've had Stu Perry on the podcast. I've had Andrea Scott on the podcast. I've had Cameron Looper, and I've obviously had a few more people, but not all of them have a ministry or nonprofit or something that you can necessarily donate to, but there will be plenty more of people like that to come. So as far as that goes, I'm setting up a Patreon page. What I want to do though is I don't want to ask for any more than $1 to $5 a month, plain and simple. I don't want you guys to feel like this is something that you're constantly paying out of pocket for. I don't even want it to be in the back of y'all's minds when you sign up for the Patreon page. If you wanted to give $1 a month, bless you for doing that. Basically $12 a year, essentially, and your dollar goes to the cause of somebody that has been on my podcast. So in your time of listening to this podcast and learning something new, gaining perspective on a certain situation, and me giving value to your life, you have the ability and the option to give value to somebody else's life. So yeah, that is an option for you. I don't want any more than $1 to $5 a month. And again, I promise you here, Not a single dollar of that Patreon account will ever go to me for any personal expense whatsoever or to build up the blog or podcast. It is simply a donation page for making donations to other causes, and that is all. Um, I think it would be cool to see though, like, is as this podcast grows, if there's 100 people that are listening, that are subscribed to this podcast, um, that if they want to do that, they can donate $1 to $5 a month. That's $100 to $500 a month that you will watch me go and present that check to one of the people I've been on the podcast, and you get to see the happiness that it brings them, and you get to see the joy that is brought about because of that, and you essentially get to say in your time of enjoying this podcast that you also had a hand in bringing some happiness to other people. And I think that's a very special thing. That's something that I believe would really help grow our community as far as people that are aspiring to just help one another, and also are just willing to reach out to other people that they might not have heard of yet and say, hey, I believe in what you're doing. uh, you know go keep doing what you're doing. Here's a little bit of support from me. I'm really proud to see what's going on. So yeah, that is the project that I'll be working on right now. I will let you guys know on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook when the Patreon account is up and running, and I will have information. I will probably have the URL posted with whatever instructions are needed to go and become a member if that's what you feel like doing. Besides that, I want to move on to goals. I have a couple goals in mind, so if y'all hear me talking about these goals in person or whatever, ask me how I'm doing about them and keep me accountable and keep pushing me to try to reach that. So as far as goals go, obviously, I want to have more people on this podcast. I want to talk to more people. I want to learn about different things. But a goal of mine is to essentially release an episode once a week, at least one episode a week, because I definitely want this to be something that is regular, that also you guys can look forward to, and just to have better conversations and give out better information or better content in whatever way. But I want to be able to supply you guys essentially with an episode at least once a week, with or without a guest. But as far as guests pertaining, I want to have a guest that is going to teach me in one way or another to be better, either physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or financially. So we have those 5 different topics that we'll always be trying to grow in or get some perspective on. And of course, I want it to be as fun as possible. I just want you to be able to learn something new about the world, or about yourself, or even something outside of this world. Of course, I'm always interested in talking about things that just don't creep into conversation that often. I don't want to sound like somebody who wants to talk about Bigfoot or something that often, but I like talking about exciting things like that. Not necessarily Bigfoot, but I like talking about outer space. I like talking about other dimensions. I like talking about spooky things. And yeah, we'll have a spooky series. That just reminded me. We'll have a spooky series coming up during the whole month of October. Even if I have to by myself, I will either have a guest on, or an episode ran by myself, to where we will be having during the entire month of October spooky episodes. Essentially, we're going to talk about something scary or something haunting or something that you just didn't know about the whole month of October and Halloween included. I kind of want to do that for the holidays. Have an episode dedicated for each holiday, like during that holiday, and then of course other miscellaneous guests who I find interesting that I would want to have on during that time as well. Um, Other goals, I want to travel more. That's obviously easier said than done. I know that pretty much everybody wants to travel. I know that you guys want to get out there and see the world. Um, probably not as much as I do, though, to be honest, because I think about it almost every single day. And I want to get to the point where I am traveling across the country regularly to obviously go and talk to different people who I find interesting that could bring some value to my life and to y'all's life as well. Like to travel the world, but I'm kind of making that like a 3 to 5 year goal. And but for right now, I'm really, really trying to do regular road trips to different parts of this country to interview these wonderful people. But along the lines of that, I have something to ask of you guys in the meantime until I can make those trips regularly. Okay? This is what I need you guys to do. My audience, my people that support me, I need a huge favor. I need you guys to tell me about anybody that you might think is interesting that should be on this podcast. Tweet at me, send me a message on Instagram or on Facebook, reach out to me in some way and say, hey, I know somebody who does blah, 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 and I think it's so cool, and I think you should go and talk to them about it. I think they deserve an episode on your podcast. That would be huge for me because I only know so many people, and of course, you guys only know so many people, but you guys know people that I don't know. And what would be really cool is to be able to just regularly have somebody on my roster um, as far as getting on the podcast and talking to them about whatever they do and just, learning that from them and giving you guys the chance to hear them as well. That is how the community of this podcast can grow. I think it'd be very special if I started to receive some messages like that. And outside of that, those are pretty much all my goals. I want more engagement from you guys because I don't want you all to just listen and then just be like, oh yeah, that was good. Like, you can for sure tell me if you've got a certain opinion about a certain episode that I did, if you have any questions that weren't answered from that podcast, or I mean, pretty much anything. Like, I'm just, this isn't something where like I make an episode and then like if anybody has any different opinions on it, then I get offended that you don't appreciate my art or something like that. Like, absolutely not. This is something that is mainly to help me learn because I like learning things. I never want to stop learning. I always want to grow and learn about more things, go deeper into different subjects. But I just want to happen to do that uh, on a platform to where you guys can hear about it and participate as well because I like you guys and y'all are definitely a huge part of this, and I enjoy whenever you guys give me certain feedback about pretty much anything. Um, Moving on to questions. I try to ask as many good questions as I can, but somebody updates me on like what questions I should have asked, or is there any like specific things that they think I should talk about on the podcast, and I want you guys to be able to do that. I want y'all to be able to comment that on Instagram or send that to me on Twitter. Um, I want this to be something where, you know, you don't feel afraid to approach me about anything because it truthfully it actually makes me happier to hear something than to not hear something. I mean, that obviously means that you're listening, you know, and it's nice to get that feedback and that engagement from you guys. Um, but besides that, yeah, I mean, anything that you guys want me to talk about, um, I'm definitely up for talking about and learning, um, just learning something different. Besides that, I'll tell you what's going on in my life right now. Uh, I am just bartending downtown, um, working out on a regular basis, trying to stay healthy, trying to learn something new every day. Um, but I kind of had a small revelation the other night, and I'm just kind of letting you guys in on my journey here. Uh, so, bartending, bar backing, cleaning a restaurant, all that. I'm obviously working pretty late hours, right? I work till about 3 o'clock in the morning, um, most nights, especially on the weekends, and I'm not back to my house till really late. So, what has been happening is, the positives of that is that I'm obviously making some money, right? I'm obviously um, able to pay my bills, have some walking around money, saving a little bit of money here and there. But the downside is that I wake up um, at late hours of the day. I am just super cluttered, and my mind is all foggy. Um, I go and get a workout in because I don't have to think while I'm working out. I just kind of go and make myself hurt a little bit and just work some muscles for a little bit. But besides that, I found that I'm having major trouble focusing throughout the day. I'm having a lot of trouble being task oriented and being productive and taking care of my at home responsibilities. Last night, I came home and I looked around my room, and it was just a filthy mess. And I don't judge anybody for any way that they might run their household. If you have clothes all over your floor and plates of food just sitting around your room or your living room, and that's the way you like it, that's fine by me. But if I had it my way and I was disciplined enough in my own mind to to be clean, I would have it look like a Black Mirror episode in in my living space, right? But unfortunately, that's not the case. There is uh, crumbs all over the floor. There is actually kitty litter pouring out of my cat's litter box, and there was just clothes everywhere on the ground, on my bed, uh, on my table, hanging off of my chair and my couch, shoes just thrown around everywhere. And it was one of those really depressing moments uh, where I just knew. I was like, this is not how you adult. This is not how you live like responsibly. You can't just mosey around where you live and then just get to work, then be done, and then come back and sleep. Like, that's for sure not a life to live. And I was just, beating my head against a wall, just like thinking to myself, I'm like, what are you going to do? What are you, how are you going to get out of this? Because it feels like there's like a spider web of just anxiety like wrapped around me. And I don't know if anybody else has ever felt like that, but it's like one of those things where you're just like, how am I going to escape this? How am I gonna grow past this? Like, I don't have energy. I don't have any like drive. There's no chemicals in my body that makes me want to get up and push a little bit harder. What am I going to do? So I definitely right now, just being honest, I don't have the answers, but I'm letting you guys know right now that I am embarking on a journey somewhat to instill certain habits in my daily life to get to a better point. And I guess with admitting that on this podcast, essentially inviting you guys on my journey. Uh, Not really to keep me accountable or anything. I'm not asking for that, but just understand that, um, or at least to be vulnerable enough to say to anyone else that feels the same way out there or is dealing with the same thing that, I'm right there with you. You're not the only person that is feeling anxious about life, that feels like they're just not growing in some way. You're not the only one, and you can do this because I know that I can do this. I don't know how, essentially, right now, but I know that I can. I know that I can get there. Um, the other weekend, I was down in Paducah, and I was hanging out with my family. I was also hanging out with my boys. My buddy John, he is getting married, and we were celebrating his bachelor party. But we had a really good time. All the guys getting together, and I'll talk more about that here in a minute. But when I was done with the bachelor party, I went and after that Saturday night we had the bachelor party. I got up. Me and my buddies cleaned the lake house, but then I had time to get to my cousins and go to church with them. And excuse me. And so I'm able to go to my cousin's church and listen to the sermon that this guy had. And it was really powerful. But one of the things that he was talking about was, uh, well, he was talking about having a walk with God and essentially what that should look like in a certain area. And basically what he meant, though, what he was getting at was he was talking about habits. And he was talking about there are good habits and there are bad habits, right? And habits, though, what he pointed out, usually occur on a daily basis, right? A good habit is when you get up in the morning and you immediately brush your teeth and you take a shower and you get cleaned up and ready for work. That's a good habit. A bad habit is when you eat dinner and you make yourself a wonderful meal, but then you leave your dishes on the table or on the counter and you don't clean up after yourself. That is a bad habit. But both of those habits happen on a daily basis. And that's essentially what he was getting at. And he's talking about like how our relationship with God, like obviously like having a relationship with God is not a habit, but you do things on a daily basis for the people. You do good habits for them on a daily basis for the people that you want to be in a relationship with, right? Okay, so like if you're married, obviously on a daily basis, I should hope you do, you tell your significant other that you love them, right? Before you go to work, when you get home, before you go to bed, uh, after a phone call, or just because you honestly love them. Not like it's a chore to tell somebody that you love them, but you do that on a daily basis because you are in a relationship with them and you want them to know that. So he was talking about how if truly a relationship with God is important to you, then what daily habits do you have that exemplify that or would encourage that or grow that relationship? And I thought that was pretty cool. But what it also kind of got me thinking was, I have these goals, I have these dreams, right? But what kind of habits am I doing on a daily basis that is going to get me from point A to point B? Obviously, like these dreams that I have, they can't be obtained overnight, but you can do something daily as far as habits go that will get you from point A to point B. It will set you on a path. It will help you build a house brick by brick on a daily basis if you really do include those habits. So one thing that I did realize was that, if I want to be a more sophisticated, more responsible adult, I guess, I need to start incorporating better daily habits that would at least put me on a path to success, to getting there. So, for instance, like let's say I can't get $10,000 in my account in one day, right? But I can focus on saving a little bit more money than I usually do on a daily basis that will eventually get me $10,000 in my account, or to start living a fiscally responsible way that will do that. Or let's lower that example a little bit. Let's just talk about cleanliness and an organized room. Okay, uh, instead of having a day like on a weekend where, like maybe lazy Sunday, where nobody's talking to you, you don't have anything to do, so you take that time to clean your whole room and it takes you like 2.5 hours. Why not on a daily basis, before I leave or when I wake up in the morning before I go to bed, I clean up one thing that I own that's in my room or in my car. I find some trash that's on the ground, or I find some clothes that are laying out and I just put them away, or I just organize them. And it takes me 2 to 3 minutes. Almost not even 2 to 3 minutes. I bet if I just hustled a little bit, it would probably take me like 60 seconds. And I do that in the morning, and I do that before I go to bed. I just look around and I grab something. I think instilling habits like that are going to put me on a path to success. But I also do realize at the same time, um, my disorganized possessions are more than just um, a result of bad habits. It is a reflection of how I feel about myself and how important I feel, or not how important I feel, but the importance that I feel towards conducting my life. Um, I feel that uh, the way that my room looks, or the way that my life looks as far as possessions go, are a reflection of how I feel overall. And probably didn't explain that super well, but let's say that somebody wanted to be taken really seriously, like a really serious adult. Somebody wanted respect of everyone in the room, right? You go over their house, okay, because they invite you over for a barbecue dinner, and you look around and there is just garbage everywhere. And it's not like this dirty, like rats running around garbage, but it's just disorganized. There's dirty plates everywhere. There's dust like all over the living room floor. No matter how serious like you take yourself, people aren't going to take you that seriously, and that's a reflection of how serious you actually do take yourself. And even then, I might be coming across a little confusing, but still, I want to take myself more seriously as a person. I want to value myself more as an individual. Therefore, I need to not only respect uh, myself and my feelings, but I need to respect my possessions and my daily responsibilities as far as maybe paying bills, um, saving money, checking in on friends and family, being more than just for myself, being more for others, you know. So that'll be something that I'll be working on, but I believe that that is more of a mental battle than it is a physical one, because anybody can take 5 minutes out of their day and walk around and sweep up the floor. I think you have to have this um, this tenacity to do the things that you might not find super convenient at the time, or maybe you want to take an afternoon nap, but you need to fight your own brain and tell yourself no and get up and go and do it. That's a mental game. That is a mental battle. So I'm going to be taking steps as far as meditating, practicing certain mental exercises um, to build up that discipline, to taking care of those responsibilities, um, seeing my projects all the way through, and just accomplishing these things one at a time. I, truthfully, I want to be able to instill a Navy SEAL type mentality in my own head, to when I know that there's a project that needs to get done. I know that there's a task or a chore that needs to be handled. I just have this relentless attitude of just go and crush it, just go get it done. Um, nothing else, nothing else matters. Prioritize accordingly, but you don't go to bed until that is done, and you can focus on whatever's going on the next day. But you have to get done today what is necessary to get done, and just have some good freaking discipline. So that is going to be something I'll be working on. I'll let you guys know how that goes. I actually just got a book on audible.com, and this worksheet that is going to kind of help me walk through this whole thing. Let me pull it up here real quick. And if you guys have ever heard of it, definitely give me your feedback on it, if you've read it or not. And I'd love to pick y'all's brain about what you thought about it. But it's called Mind Hacking, and it is written by Sir John Hargrave. He is he used to run a comedy website, I think, but he grouped up with a lot of psychologists and professors and other people to come up with this book, to talk about the necessity of having a healthy mind and a healthy brain, and how to declutter that brain fog that you have um, without the abuse or even use of medication. So if some of you guys are just pumping yourself with Adderall or Ritalin out there, and you feel like that there's no other option for you, I would give you, or I would tell you to give this book uh, a read and see what you think. But I'm going to be going through this 21-day phase of just kind of hacking my own mind, is what they say. And then afterwards, they introduced me to this app called Coach Me, and it's called Coach.me. But basically, they have a lot of different things that you can do on here as far as meditation goes, things to think about, mental exercises that you can do to help you focus throughout the day, and it seems to be pretty cool. But I'll let you guys know how that goes. But yeah, so that's what I'm working on right now. That's what I want to achieve. And outside of that, just focus on staying as healthy as I can, working through certain emotions. Um, Speaking on emotions, I actually do want to go ahead and open up about this a little bit. I want to let you guys know, I'm starting to realize more and more that people my age, my friends, my family, it is becoming harder and harder to carve out time to see them. Uh, my One of my best friends is moving away to Austin. Another one of my best friends already lives up in Tacoma, Washington. Grew up with the both of them. They're like brothers to me. My cousin and her husband, who I hold very dear to my heart. My cousin's husband is, he's one of my best friends too. He's like a brother to me. And they live in another part of the state, which is like 3 hours away. And I rarely get to see them, but they just had a baby boy, a beautiful baby boy. And I'm so happy for the both of them. They're creating a wonderful life for themselves. And but the truth is, I don't get to see them like I want to, or like I used to. I don't get to see a lot of my friends like I do, or used to. And I know that it's just a fact of life. One of my good friends, he's got a wonderful job. He lives out in Baltimore. He works for Under Armour. He's being super successful and he's killing it. But I don't get to see him for months at a time, and it's pretty depressing. Um, we had the bachelor party last weekend for my buddy John. He's getting married. He's about to start his life with his beautiful fiancee Emily, and we had 9 guys in one lake house for a weekend, and that was so much fun. And we did so much. We tubed. We were out on the boat all day. We swam. We ate a bunch of food. Um, just did so much crazy stuff. But it wasn't until like the next morning everyone had to get up early and just leave. And they had tight schedules, had to get back to what they were doing. And it was a very sobering, slightly depressing feeling that, nowadays it takes a bachelor party or a wedding to get everybody back together again. And that's kind of sad. But yeah, that's just been something that I've been working through lately because, it's just a fact of life. I never thought about it, but my parents don't get to see their childhood friends like they used to. They don't even get to see their own siblings like they used to. They have lives. They have jobs. They have a family of their own they need to take care of. They have property they need to take care of, and you know, it is what it is. But I think I'm wrapping my head around that, and I find peace in knowing, though, with at least my group of friends, that we're the kind of guys that can pick up right where we left off, and that's really something special. Uh, no matter how far away anybody moves, the day they come back to visit, it's like no time went by at all. And we all pick it up right where we left off. But thinking about it though, I think to myself, I might not be the only one that feels like this. And sometimes I have a little pity party for myself um, whenever I think about it, but then I realize that other people feel that way too. So I guess I want to say to anybody else that feels like that feels like they don't get to see um, the people um, that they grew up with and everything that they spend a lot of time with. It's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to miss them and to feel sad about you know not being able to spend as much time with them. But just know that like they miss you too. And I don't know, kind of getting on a little sentimental note there. But yeah, as far as feelings go, uh, that's some of the feelings that I've been working through. And yeah, the road ahead is long, but you know, don't forget that you have the love of the people that you grew up with that will be with you always. Um, Besides that, uh, just kind of having fun, just doing me, working on myself. and I'm glad that I get to update everybody on the podcast. I'm glad that I get to hand out, um, moments like this to people and allow you guys to participate in something that I'm trying to grow and that I'm trying to do. Uh, it's nice to have y'all support and hear from you guys from time to time. But on that note, I will draw this episode to a close. This is Life on a Mission, and this is Solo Show, Episode 1. Um, Thank you guys so much for listening and for participating and for all the feedback. I'm glad that you guys enjoy these episodes. It's so nice to hear from you guys. Like, once you listen to them, to hear y'all's thoughts and opinions. I do enjoy it. Um, if I could ask one more favor, uh, I want this thing to be able to reach other people's ears, and sometimes I just uh, can't get to people fast enough by word of mouth. But if you guys want to do me a favor and uh, tell your friends, tell your family, ask them to subscribe for me at least. That'll help me build this platform to where we can reach more people's ears. We can have more of an impact on on certain communities, and we can essentially watch this thing grow and hopefully bring value to more and more people's lives. So, thank you guys very much. I hope everyone has a wonderful week. A lot more episodes to come. More guests. I have some pretty cool guests that will probably be coming on soon. I'm excited for you guys to hear them. But yeah, thank you guys. Have a wonderful week.